Imagine this. You're a child in 1970s Britain. Your school bag smells of crayons. Your TV glows with jingles, and everywhere you look, people are smoking. Cartoon characters puff cigarettes in commercials. Billboards show young, smiling faces holding packs with pride. And in sweet shops, candy cigarettes sit right next to chocolate bars. You don't think twice because smoking isn't rebellion. It's normal, but behind that normal was a secret worth billions, a plan so deliberate that it turned an entire generation into lifelong customers before they even turned 16. The cigarette industry didn't wait for adults to choose smoking. They taught children to dream about it. Before we uncover how deep this manipulation went, hit that subscribe button because on PastMuse, history doesn't whisper, it exhales the truth. By the 1970s, smoking wasn't just a habit. It was everywhere. In offices, classrooms, airplanes, even hospitals. Doctors appeared in ads holding cigarettes, saying, "More doctors smoke Camels than any other brand." It was glamour, rebellion, and confidence rolled into one, and everyone wanted a piece of it. But while the world saw freedom, the tobacco giants saw opportunity, because the moment people started to realize cigarettes were deadly, companies began searching for a new kind of customer, one too young to understand danger. By the mid-1970s, the truth about smoking was leaking out. Doctors warned of lung cancer, heart disease, and addiction, but rather than admit defeat, tobacco companies launched their most aggressive campaign yet. They changed their enemy. The goal was no longer to convince adults to start. It was to make sure children never stopped. They used psychology, deep, deliberate manipulation. Every pack, every advert, every image was engineered to create an emotion: freedom, maturity, rebellion. If you were a teenager, you weren't buying tobacco, you were buying identity. Advertisements never said for kids. They didn't have to. They showed young adults laughing, driving convertibles, running on beaches, smoke curling in the wind like a symbol of power. Cigarettes became the passport to adulthood. You weren't seen as cool until you smoked. In 1972 alone, tobacco companies spent more than $300 million on advertising, and much of it was crafted to be seen by underage audiences. Billboards near schools. TV ads during children's programs. Posters near cinemas where teenagers hung out. Even brand names were designed to feel modern: Silk Cut, Embassy, St. Moritz, Marlboro Lights. They didn't sound dangerous. They sounded elegant, and this wasn't chaos, it was careful, scientific marketing. Every color, every logo, every tagline was tested in focus groups of teenagers. They knew exactly what words worked, words like light, fresh, freedom, choice. These weren't cigarette ads. They were recruitment posters, but nothing captured kids more than candy cigarettes sold in nearly every British sweet shop. They looked real, same packaging, same names, even fake filters. Some had red-tipped ends to mimic a burning cigarette, and when you blew air through them, powdered sugar puffed out like smoke. It was playtime practice for addiction. Kids copied adults, holding, tapping, blowing, pretending. By the time they grew up, smoking didn't feel new. It felt familiar. In psychology, that's called brand imprinting. Get them young, keep them for life. But the manipulation didn't stop there. Tobacco companies poured money into media that teenagers loved: pop magazines, racing events, even sports heroes carried cigarette logos on jackets and cars. When Formula One teams rolled out cars covered in Marlboro red and white, it wasn't just racing, it was advertising on wheels, and it worked better than anyone imagined. By 1975, surveys showed that 8 out of 10 British teenagers could name a cigarette brand instantly. Most could recognize the Marlboro logo before they could name all British prime ministers. They didn't even need to smoke yet. The hook was already in, and candy cigarettes. They sealed the deal. By age 11, most children had pretend smoked. By 13, many had tried their first real one. A generation didn't fall into smoking by accident, they were led there, step by step. Smile by smile, jingle by jingle, cigarette companies didn't just sell smoke, they sold emotion, they hired psychologists, behavioral scientists, marketing experts, who studied one thing: how to make kids crave something deadly. They discovered that addiction isn't just chemical, it's emotional. So they started selling emotion before nicotine ever touched a lung. They knew that children wanted the things above all: to be older and to be accepted. So every advert whispered the same message: adults smoke, be like them. The packaging did the rest. Notice how cigarette boxes in the 70s looked sleek, polished, elegant. Nothing about them screamed danger. No skulls, no warnings. Just gold stripes, royal fonts, shining crests, and foreign names that sounded expensive. Even the sound of the packet opening, that crisp snap, was tested in focus groups to feel satisfying. To a child, it was like opening a toy. To an adult, it was ritual. Then came the slogans: you've come a long way, baby, reach for the taste of the future. Each tagline crafted to make smoking sound like progress, like individuality. The irony: every puff brought them closer to dependency, and every dependency brought the company profit. But the real genius, or evil, was how they timed it. They advertised before and after cartoons, they bought billboard space near skate parks and bus stops. They even funded scholarships and events for youth development, subtly tying their brands to positivity and success. Kids didn't see manipulation, they saw glamour. Adults didn't see corruption, they saw normality. And by the time health campaigns tried to intervene, it was already too late. The addiction had moved from lungs to identity. Stick around, because up next, we're diving into the part they never wanted you to know: how celebrities, athletes, and movie stars became tools of influence, convincing millions of kids that smoke was the symbol of greatness. If the 1970s had a face, it was beautiful, but it was smoking. Hollywood stars flicked their lighters between lines, musicians blew smoke between lyrics, even cartoon mascots smiled with cigarettes in hand. Cigarette brands weren't selling to kids directly anymore. They used the people kids idolized. Think about it. Every movie hero smoked. Every spy, detective, and rebel had that same slow drag, that same confident smirk. From James Bond to British rock stars, smoke wasn't pollution. It was perfection. When David Bowie, Mick Jagger, and countless pop icons appeared on posters, teenagers copied everything they did: the hair, the clothes, and the habit. Tobacco companies didn't need to advertise, pop culture did it for them. In 1975, a single ad campaign for Silk Cut featured no cigarette at all, just the image of silky purple fabric being cut by silver scissors. No words, no smoke, just suggestion. It became one of the most powerful campaigns ever made. Why? Because it made the viewer feel clever for getting it, and the youth loved it. Then came sports. Formula One cars roared across TV screens with Marlboro and Rothman's branding on every inch. Kids who dreamed of racing didn't just want speed, they wanted those colors. Footballers appeared in cigarette adverts. 2. Posters at stadiums read, "The taste of victory." Smoking wasn't seen as weakness. It was seen as winning. And the government, they stayed silent because the tobacco tax was worth millions. So while schools taught children not to smoke, the world around them screamed the opposite message. Every movie, every billboard, every racing car whispered, "You're not really living unless you're smoking." It was manipulation wrapped in glamour, a lie sold in gold foil. But here's the haunting truth: even when laws started banning cigarette ads, the addiction didn't vanish. Because by then, the industry had already achieved what it wanted: a generation programmed to smoke even without seeing an ad. By the late 1970s, cracks started to show in the golden wall of cigarette advertising. The Glossy posters and smooth-talking TV commercials couldn't hide the truth forever. Doctors were speaking up. Research was undeniable. And behind every glamorous ad stood a generation coughing its lungs out. But the real collapse began when whistleblowers from inside the industry stepped forward. They revealed the secret memos, internal documents, proving what the companies had known for decades, that nicotine wasn't harmless. It was highly addictive, that smoking didn't make people free. It made them dependent. Those documents exposed marketing plans that explicitly mentioned younger customers. In some, executives even discussed how to capture brand loyalty before legal age. The world was shocked. For the first time, the mask came off. In Britain, the public outrage spread fast. Television ads for cigarettes were banned. Schools began running anti-smoking campaigns. Even celebrities who once held cigarettes on camera started apologizing for it. But for millions who had already started smoking as kids, it was too late. They were trapped in the habit they were trained to love. The marketing had done its job. Cigarette sales dropped. Yes, but addiction remained. The companies simply adjusted. They shifted focus from direct advertising to sponsorships. They couldn't show cigarettes on TV, so they placed their logos on race cars, snooker tables, and music festivals. The smoke never left the screen, it just changed form. And even after every scandal, every lawsuit, and every law, the industry found a way to survive, because the addiction they built wasn't just physical. It was cultural. Even though the old ads vanished, their influence never did. The 1970s generation grew up and passed their habits to the next. Smoking became inherited memory, from father to son, mother to daughter, not as an act of rebellion anymore, but as routine. And here's the chilling truth: while cigarette ads died, the tactics did. And single quotes look closer at today's world. Energy drinks, fast food, vapes, even digital apps all use the same formulas tobacco companies invented decades ago. Bright colors, youthful faces, emotional slogans, promises of confidence, independence, identity. The only difference is the product changed. The manipulation didn't. Psychologists who once worked for cigarette giants now consult for modern consumer brands. And though we no longer see cartoon camels selling cigarettes, we see influencers selling freedom in the form of flavored vapor. History didn't end, it evolved, but the victims are still the same: the young, the curious, the impressionable. So the next time you scroll past a slick ad, the next time something feels too cool to question, remember, you've seen this before. It started with smoke. It started with innocence, and it ended with an entire generation coughing out the price of manipulation. The story of how cigarettes were marketed to kids in the 1970s isn't just a story about greed. It's a warning. It shows how power, money, and influence can reshape reality. How an entire industry convinced the world that poison was pleasure. Those billboards are gone now, the candy cigarettes are gone, but the lesson remains that sometimes the most dangerous products aren't sold to you directly. They're sold to your imagination, and that's what made it work, because once an idea lights up in your mind, you don't need smoke to keep it burning. So, the next time history whispers through the haze of nostalgia, listen carefully, because what you find might not just be the past. It might be a warning about the present.